Hello everyone, welcome to session number 9, I believe, I hope so, with this feral stud horse who is not quite as feral anymore. And for those of you that don't know, he is a Cryptorchid, and basically I'm helping gentle him and doing the kickstart of the gentling so he can be safe enough to handle and go to the vet to get the surgery he needs to be gelded or just get a regular gelding. I'm not sure exactly which route they're going with him, but that is why I'm working with him for a short amount of sessions. So right away, we have that rope halter on, and I'm going to go to the bumping instead of the pulling, and hopefully I tighten this rope halter at some point because it is a little bit loose on him. And right now I'm going back and forth between the rubbing with it and then just getting him used to the motion. Again, doing the bumps to get him back to me. So, and this is where timing is super important. Anytime that he hops up and pulls, I have to make sure that I'm ready to bump him and bring his nose back over towards me. As soon as he stays still for the rubbing, I'll take that pressure away, release him, and reward him for standing still. Now there are a couple of other things I would like to be doing, but I do know that we're in a little bit of a time crunch, so I'm trying to gentle him in the easiest way as quick as possible, which sounds a little bit contradicting. Good, so I like that he figured out and remembered to stand still just from the desensitizing again. So then I get the reward, and then I send him out, go to yield the hindquarters. A lot of just mixing everything up, and this is to prepare him for when we leave the pen, just to make sure that he's okay with everything. If something spooks him, I want his comfort to be either yielding the hindquarters or coming to me and looking to me for some sort of an answer to help him calm back down. I will be cutting parts in and out of this video just because I'm really trying to get this series done, and this video itself is a little bit long, so I'm just going to make sure I cover the important points in here. I know a couple of you have been pretty committed to watching this series of him, so I don't want to leave too much out. Good, he gave me a really nice transition there. When you started to slow down, he already understood that I lift my hand, and he picks up that speed again. Good, so pretty much there, still trying to follow the sequence of cues, which is point the hand, cluck, and then move the whip. I get a little bit more lenient when I'm trying to keep them moving rather than asking for a transition. I mainly use that whip to add energy from behind. However, I want to be super aware that I'm not nagging him with the whip. Good, and the reason I tapped him there was because he was starting to drift out a little bit. So what I wanted was some more impulsion from him, but again to keep his nose in towards me. And now what I'm trying to work on and see if I can almost trigger again is when he has that response, when I'm either changing directions with him or trying to get him to come on a tighter and closer circle. I don't know if you guys remember from the prior videos, but he would kind of like to hop and jump out of it. So again, whatever I can trigger in this round pen where it's a very tall fence, it's a small area, it's more of a controlled environment, whatever I can trigger in here and see where he's still learning, green, uncomfortable, and then figure out how I can break it down even smaller to help him work through that so he's safe when we leave the pen. Good boy, and I remember that at the canter he gets a little bit spicy and a little bit playful, and what I'm trying to do is keep him going for a longer time here. So there we had a little bit of spice. So what I did right there with my body is I'm kind of spooking in place. There we go. I'm jumping and spooking in place because if we're out there and, a saddle pad falls off the rail or another person walks out from behind the corner or something and that catches his eye and he wants to take off, again, I didn't do my job preparing him in here. So people do weird things sometimes, so I want to make sure that he's okay with me just kind of jumping with no energy directed towards him, and he's able to kind of tolerate that and stand still. So you saw that I started with him moving when we were doing that, so that gives him an even bigger escape route. He already is moving forward. He can speed up to let me know if he's super uncomfortable, or he can slow down to kind of check it out and be curious. And then once he's okay with that, I ask him to halt on the rail, basically, start jumping again, get a little bit closer, jump again, get a little bit closer, jump again, and then we go back to the desensitizing with the stick and string. Good, and this horse tries super hard. I'm sure all of you guys can see that, and I really like that he is less wanting to challenge now, and he's less unsure about that part of being around humans. And I'm super surprised with how well he is with the stick and string going around his legs. Like, really, he's moving to the side a little bit, but this is a fantastic reaction from him. The reason I'm doing this is, again, I don't know where the vets are going to be touching on him, if they need to pick his feet up. I'm sure he has to have his feet done eventually at some point anyways. So it's good to get him used to the feel back there. Good, like you can see right there how it really wrapped around. I mean, that's seriously such a great response from him. His biggest downfall is taking that shoulder and that neck and really trying to push the outside, as you guys can see. But I mean, he's really working through it. I know this is session 9, but this is probably only like day 3 or 4 of me working with him, since I do a couple short sessions every day. So I'm getting a little bit stricter on him here, where he can't just kind of wander off. Good, there's a nice big release. That's why you see the bumping, and I know some people say that looks a little bit firm, it looks a little bit excessive, but remember, this is basically his first time working in the rope halter, so he's getting to feel all of that pressure now, which is different than one of those flat leather halters or flat nylon halters. So hopefully once he figures out the pressure points are a little bit different, it can get a little bit easier for him. I won't have to use quite as much firmness. Good, and I can't remember if I've done this with him before, but right now it's just going to be desensitizing to that rope, trying to get it over his head, and then on his back, and I'm sure I'm going to do a little bit of that snaking technique, and then I'll probably ask him to turn his nose to the outside and give to that rope. And judging by that reaction, I think this is the first time I did it with him. So I'm not adding any pressure. I'm trying to keep it as loose as possible. What I'm doing is just letting him get a feel for what a rope feels like behind him. A very light feeling. I know it gets pretty dusty here. So I'm going to stick with him best I can. Good. Not adding any pressure at all. Kind of just letting him figure it out. Get the feel of it. And then he was like, well, okay, I'm going to turn away to get this off of me. And that wasn't even from me asking or anything. He figured that part out on his own. So I'm going to kind of set him back up for it again. And of course, he's really anticipating it. He's like, well, I really don't want that thing behind me again. But we did a lot of desensitizing work already with that rope swinging. So I'm trying to build his confidence again with that. This exercise is super important, not only for if you're trying to start a horse under saddle and wanting to teach them to give to pressure and tip their nose the opposite way. It also helps with more of a head-shy horse. Now, with a really head-shy horse, I would initially start way closer to the horse, kind of start with rubbing it on their face, but he kind of went through that process already with the halter, and I know he's not super head-shy because I can walk right up there with my hands, put him on his face, and he doesn't lift it at all. He's pretty settled with that. But this could really help desensitize a horse that's head shy if you're using a very soft rope with them. This rope is pretty darn soft. But for him, I'm using it simply for desensitizing purposes and getting ready to toss it back over his head again. Good, and I don't mind how many times I either get it over or I miss with it. And right there, you could tell I was giving him some pretty firm pulls. And I know I've gotten comments on that already. But there is a reason I'm doing everything like that. I do go in and try to comfort them sometimes, where I walk up, pet their face, give them a break when we're working on something, but we haven't quite made progress yet, but the horse is still a little bit stressed out about it. And the reason it's so important that I get that nose tipped back towards me is because when we leave that pen, if this horse gets away from me, that's a big danger not only to all the other horses, all the people around, but also himself if he gets loose. And I don't know if he's at a point where he can be in a large area and be caught. So if his go-to is just taking his shoulder and bulging out of there, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So he kind of decided that the tossing was a little bit too much right now. So I was just going to desensitize him really quick with rubbing him with the rope and then get back to that exercise with it behind him and kind of forget about tossing it over his head for the time being. Sometimes I'll do that when there's something that prioritizes, I guess would be the right term. Working on like that tossing of the rope over the head. For me, it's important that if he gets caught up in anything, he knows how to give to it. So if I have to skip over the tossing for right now just to teach him to give again, I'll be okay with that. So, and again, a little bit of issues with that rope desensitizing, and that is his whole ordeal with that pulling of the shoulder and the head. As soon as he gives in and looks right at me, all of that pressure comes off and is released. So, and this is a horse that definitely could potentially develop a bolting habit. And I actually worked with another horse here at this facility a little bit before this one, and it had this thing with trailer loading. If you walked it up to the trailer and you were standing on its, I don't know, the left side of the horse, I believe, whatever the normal leading side is. I lead on both sides so often I can't even remember anymore. But if you led on that side and you went to load up onto the trailer, the horse would take its head and neck, and it knew exactly how to get the right leverage just to pull out of there and just basically leave. But if I went to the off side, which no one ever loaded on, the horse didn't know the trick on that side yet. So he listened a lot better and was able to respond to my cues when I was asking him to load, and he loaded up first try within like 10 seconds. So if I let this horse create a habit out of being able to bulge out, pull his nose, pull his shoulder, and I do that right now, it's going to be difficult later on to get that out of him. So even there, I really wanted to reward him for being soft and giving to the rope when it was behind him, but then he had to keep wandering off. Good boy. Definitely quite a bit of excitement in this session, and I've only worked with him for what, about 14 minutes now? Good. So what I was doing there is called snaking, and it's a really good technique I use with a lot of Mustangs. Typically not when it's already on the other side of the head. I'll kind of throw it up on the same side of the horse, but it gets the horse desensitized to that rope coming up and down on their back. Also movement from the side. And now the goal isn't really to get him to canter or anything, it's just to get him used to that feel. Good. And so what he did there was kind of stall out and think about swinging his hind end in towards me, so that's why I added a little bit more pressure for him to go forward. I don't believe I've added tension to the rope quite yet. Now there's a little bit more because I'm wanting him to feel what it's like on his hind leg after you saw that kick out that was right in front of the camera. So unfortunately, sometimes what happens is they do actually end up being able to kick it off. So you got to make sure that you're quick enough with your timing and you're able to hold it just at the right point. Good, and he seems to understand it a little bit better now. Good, we're almost getting that nose around. There we go. Good. This is one of those exercises that's a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is, high energy, a little bit more required faster movement from the horse. Usually that's just how they respond as they move, because it's weird for them to have something behind them like that. You know, domesticated horses, they learn, especially as foals, sometimes, most of the time, they're learning how to lead with a rope behind their butt. So it's not quite as odd for them to get used to this. But these wild ones, I mean, even if they were roped to get caught or anything at some point in their lives, or, you know, put in chutes or anything, there's never any rope going around their hind end. So it's pretty weird for them to learn that. Super good with the desensitizing with the stick and string. I'm probably going to cut this video off around right here because there's still a little bit longer left to it and I don't want it to get too long, but I believe I probably do the rope behind the butt exercise again, and if it's everything looking pretty similar, I will upload that video. If not, I will skip to the next session. But thank you guys so much for watching the at least first half of session 9 with this horse, and stay tuned for the next video.